This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Hey guys, I'm Sai. It's Sunday, it's fight night here on A.C.E Podcast Nation. Welcome to the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. And today is episode 100. And I'm delighted to say that it's a very special show, a huge show, should I say, as tonight we'll be joined from across the pond by a reigning champion of the world. Plus, we'll have our resident boxing pundit, Ben Doherty, joining us a bit later to talk about boxing's biggest upsets, as well as talking the latest news and results from the world of MMA and boxing. You can send your questions in as usual. We're in live on all three platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So, of course, you can get your questions in for us or our guests. And there's one way to support the channel and guarantee your questions get answered. You can donate a super chat on YouTube, I believe. And as I mentioned, we're live on those three platforms. And as you know, A.C.E Podcast Nation, you're home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. So do give us a follow on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the bell for notifications. And if you prefer your podcast in audio platform or audio version, should I say, you can get it now as part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first dedicated sports podcast network. You can find the Danny Batten Fight Show, all our previous episodes, all 100 of them, all the different guests. And of course, you can find all content produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation at the Sports Social website. So please do check them out. But with the housekeeping out of the way for now, I am delighted to say, first and foremost, I'm joined by, as usual, by my co-host. He's a former Cage Warriors champion, a UK MMA legend. It is Mr. Danny Batten. How are you, my friend?
Side listeners, yeah, really good. As always, love doing the research on not only our guests, but the fights that we've had, and we've been treated to some awesome performances on the fights again. Can't wait to preview those a little bit later on.
Yes, indeed, mate. It's been a good week of a good weekend of fights. Indeed, it's very interesting. Lots of interesting stuff. But I have to say, I'm delighted to say that we are joined by ONE Championship's featherweight champion of the world. It is Mr. Thornley. How are you, my friend?
Doing good on this Sunday. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be on.
It's great to have you. And obviously, the obvious place to start, I guess, is I did a little interview with you a few weeks back in the build-up to your fight, which was due to be in just a couple of weeks at the ONE X event. You were going to defend your title versus Gary Tonin, a fight I think every MMA fan in the world was anticipating and really looking forward to. That event has been postponed temporarily until into the new year. How do you feel about that? And also, was it a shock to you, or was it something that you were kind of prepared for?
It was a shock. I guess the news was a shock, but it's you get little signs here and there. We didn't get flight plans or anything yet, and usually they're pretty early with those things. Certain emails about medicals, so you can kind of tell something was up in the air. You know, they weren't as early as they always are on things like that for the fighters and the coaches and management and all that stuff. So, you know, you get a little paranoid, I guess, when it starts getting closer to the fight. And, you know, the event's going to happen, weight cut's getting to where it needs to be. You're in the middle of camp. You know, you already know what paycheck's supposed to be coming. So it's you know, you really anticipate stuff like that, and then you get the news. So it sucks. Obviously, I definitely wanted to get my hands on Gary, and I'm sure he wanted to get his hands on me. But you know, we'll get to it, and it just gives me a little more time to be prepared, which is always a good thing. You know, I've said that to you guys in the past, that the more time you give me to prepare for somebody, the worse it is for them. And I'm sure Gary feels the same way. So I'm glad I'm getting the best Gary possible. That's the reason I got into this sport, and the reason I fight at this level is to fight the baddest dudes and the biggest challenges. So that's always a better situation for me no matter what. So I always try to look at the positive side of things, you know.
Good stuff. I think, yeah, I mean, it was a great card, first and foremost. Anyway, obviously, you had yourself and Gary, but you also had Mighty Mouse versus Rodang, which would have been a hell of a fight to watch. But I'm sure, you know, it'll still happen. With that, just how does that work? Like with a postponed card, does the fight contract and everything kind of just still stand, and the date gets changed, or will it all have to be renegotiated?
Well, they're working all that out, and I think everybody was happy with where they were at as far as purses and timing and all that good stuff. So, you know, we were ready to go, and his side of the team, I believe, was ready to go as well. So really now it's just find another date and let's rock and roll. Like, hopefully it's as soon as possible, but you know, if it's we're expecting first quarter, but you know, who knows how things are going to shake out. I know there's some news about possibly having ONE Championship debut in the States here. I mean, there's all kind of little rumors coming around. I don't really know much on that front, but I'm really excited that that's even a possibility for me to be fighting close to home. And I'm sure Mighty Mouse is excited about that. I'm sure Gary's excited about that. So if we can make that happen, man, I'm on board. And if I had to push the fight back a little bit just to have the opportunity to fight here in the States, I'll take it. And I'll go take my trip to Asia after the fight.
Yeah, I guess like that's one thing which you have to take into account with the fighters who are obviously, there's a lot of fighters based in the US and North America who in ONE Championship, when these big events come around, they are traveling to Asia, which is like, how much of an impact does that have on you in terms of you know, like time change and things like that, and adjusting like when you get that pre-fight?
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, if you prepare the right way. I like to think of myself as a thinker, and I try to use my brain about a lot of things. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. But with things like that, you know, I'll start to flip my schedule as soon as possible. So we get out there in the past, maybe 8-9 days ahead of time. One requires you to be there just a few days in advance, but I always like to get there a little sooner because of the time change, the jet lag, that whole situation. And for my first fight, my debut with ONE, I had no idea what to expect. You know what I mean? You hear stories and you try to get as much information and research as possible, but you don't know and you don't feel until you actually do it. So I usually flip my schedule a couple days here in the States. So I'll be training at like midnight and 8 in the morning, and then I'll sleep during the day, basically like a night shift, you know. I'll do that for a couple days, and then we fly out. And then on the plane, if you've ever traveled far, like, you know, everything's dark all the time anyway, so you can't tell day or night. So hopefully I wanted to be in a rhythm by the time I got on the flight. And you know, you do your meals, you sleep, you stretch, whatever you got to do on the plane. And by the time I get there, you're definitely not 100%, but you're pretty close. And then, you know, one day of kind of being up a little longer than you used to, and then going to sleep a little early, and you're pretty much on track. As long as you prepare, I tried to prepare as much as possible and get mentally ready for it. But it's not a huge deal, but it was definitely something I've never experienced before. And if I have the option of doing the 20-hour flight or fighting here in the States, obviously I'd like to fight in the States, but I really like the trips over there. I've never been to Asia before competing for ONE. So seeing all those countries and the scenery and traveling and doing all that stuff was every fight's an adventure for me. So I can't complain about that either. It's really fun.
Cool. Look, it's been a wild sort of 12 to 18 months, probably nearly 2 years now in terms of all the stuff with COVID. It's kind of decimated combat sports, particularly more so, I think, in like the amateur scene. But I don't know what it's been like in America, but for pretty much the whole of up until maybe the last couple of months, probably 6 months, I'd say, there was no amateur fights at all. And there was only really Cage Warriors fights in the UK, and no other company was really putting on like big shows. And I think in America, from what I could see from over here, it seemed like it was kind of UFC. You had a little bit of Bellator. Was that the same sort of thing? Like not much amateur and regional shows going on throughout that time?
Yeah, there was a big lull in that, obviously, as you can expect. But then, you know us over here. They're trying to bring in as much money as soon as possible, whether it's the best choice or not sometimes. And so they've been doing regional shows, and we've been going and trying to be as safe as possible and mask up and all that good stuff, and trying to get vaccinated, whatever. And, coaching and having our fighters fight on shows because we're trying to keep them on a schedule. So it's definitely been less so, but there has still been some fights, and it's a little weird, honestly. I remember the first one back, I was a little nervous, like, man, there's a lot of people in this room.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect,
There was this weird thing though, wasn't there, where like particularly when everything sort of first came back from lockdown, like you'd go into like a shop or a room, and like you say, you'd almost be you're counting the people, you're looking at the space between you, and you're like has he got a mask on? It's just this weird a weird thing, like a new thing to sort of manage and worry about or whatever. But yeah, I think hopefully, touch wood, that things seem to be getting better, although I thought they were, and then the 1X show was called off or postponed. Right. So I think, it's different parts of the world as well. I think sort of a different part, different levels of the virus and stuff like that. But like you say, you just got to do all the good stuff and mask and things like this. But Danny, just something which sort of caught my ear then when we were talking to Thorne was he said about like traveling to Asia to fight and the time differences and things like this, so the effect that can have on a fighter. Like obviously you fought in Japan with Pancras and places like that. Like what was that like with you? How did you manage the time difference? Because I was just thinking then when Thorne said about like trying to adjust his schedule before he flies out. So doing it at home, training in the night and sleeping in the day and stuff like that. But that obviously has a knock-on effect if you've got children or, you've got things which you do in the day normally, whether if you train people. I know you didn't have necessarily some of that stuff back then, Danny, but like, how did you deal with the time difference and the traveling and things like that in the build-up to fights and that?
To be honest, the way it is for Thorne is different from how it was for me, because my situation was a little different in that, it was sort of like 15 years ago plus. And so opportunities when they arose quite often regards Japan come up short notice, as they did even for the States when I fought out in Vegas. It all come quite short notice for me. But, you jump at these opportunities as it was back then. Now there's many more world-class promotions. So those opportunities can be more prepared for you. You get them more in advance. And like Thorne, you traveled out like up to 9 days, I think you said beforehand. I had no such luxury with my experience. I was arriving on the day of the weigh-in. What a lot of people perhaps won't appreciate with that is that your body retains water. So I was landing, jumping on the scales, and I didn't know this was one of the aspects of long haul flights, but the weight cut was absolutely horrendous for me, running around Tokyo for hours after landing. The experiences I had were woefully against any foreigner stepping onto their turf, and with my 3 experiences out there, it was almost set that way to go against you. But that said, it was great experience in seeing world. Oh, who's got music?
Sorry, that's my fault. I've got a new phone, and it seems that it's on really loud. I apologise. That has never happened to me before, and I don't even know how to turn it off.
Heard in my life.
Yeah, so
go on, Danny.
yeah, to wrap it up for me, so it was such a whirlwind. I didn't even get a chance to feel the jet lag till after everything that had happened. But it does weird things to your jet lag. It really does just do strange things to you. It's something that you can try to explain to someone, but unless they experience it themselves, they won't quite understand. And to do it in the format of trying to be at the highest level of combat sport that's got so many ways to win, so many ways to lose, it is something you definitely have to weigh up into the equation if you're traveling. And you've got to prepare for these things. So my experience was a little bit different, but I can appreciate the potential difficulties that come along with traveling. And yeah, if I could always take a big fight at home, I would always choose to do so.
Yeah, and I think, look, the other thing as well is for people, I think of over the last couple of years, like ONE Championship has put on some incredible shows and cards. They got some, phenomenal fighters. I think obviously the Mighty Mouse signing was the one that kind of caught everyone's attention because it was quite shocking to see him sort of leave the UFC and switch with Ben Askren. But like, you only have to look at some of the fights that have been on through the company over the last couple of years. They've been unbelievable. They've done some stuff, I know, on TNT in the States on Wednesday nights, I think it is. So I really do hope they, expand into the US and do more US cards, because I think that's only also going to enable them to bring in more fighters like yourself, Thorne, like Gary, like Mighty Mouse, people will. There's probably, I would imagine, there's some fighters who don't want to do that sort of traveling on a regular basis, and I think it's only good for the sport to have more major companies for fighters to choose from, which is in a whole different conversation, I guess. But there's lots of people on YouTube. There's like over 200 people on YouTube, so you'll have to bear with me, people. But Gaz says he sent in a super chat and he said, which featherweight, past or present, would Thorne like to fight?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, there's a ton that come to mind. Obviously, I'm going to start at the top and go with current champions. Volkanovski's a big one, obviously regarded as one of the best. You can't push aside Max. He just had an awesome fight, which I didn't catch at all. I need to watch the last 2 rounds, but I saw the first 3. Great fight. Those 2 guys are always at the top of the list. I've been hearing a lot of talk from AJ offering up $1 million, but if that $1 million to come beat him up in his hometown is still up for grabs, I'd love to go take advantage of that. That's a good one too, because I need some money. I drive a little 4Runner. I'd like to upgrade that. But yeah, those are just a few at the top of the list, man. That's the greats, the baddest, scariest dudes, like McGregor from 8 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever it was, when he was at 45, killing everybody, being double champ. That's the McGregor I'd like to fight. You know what I mean? Like there's a ton of really, really tough challenges that always like spark something in you as soon as you hear the name. Those are the guys I want to fight.
Is there any fighters from like any companies at the moment, like younger fighters, sort of new fighters, which have caught your eye over the last sort of couple of months or the last year or so?
I mean, there's been a bunch. They got it's been hard to eyes, or I guess my field of vision wide through all the promotions, since we've got such a stacked featherweight division in one. Watching Martin have a tough fight and getting knocked out by Kim was nice to see Kim perform, and he's somebody that I definitely am going to be matched up against. Hopefully we can take out Gary and get a quick turnaround and fight him back to back and get another nice little paycheck to match the knockout. So that's that would be really nice. But yeah, there's a ton of young guys coming up. Really, really sharp striking, which I'm excited to show my full range of actual mixed martial arts rather than just going out there and knocking people out. So I'd like to mix in some of the other stuff we've been working on too.
So you mentioned martial arts there as a whole. one question I always like to ask the guests, because everyone's got a different story, is kind of where did your journey into martial arts as a whole begin? How did you get into it? Why did you get into it? Sort of how old were you?
I kind of didn't have a choice. I kind of cheated. My dad's been doing taekwondo and kung fu and a little bit of judo here and there, and just he's a lifelong martial artist from Vietnam. Came over to the States when he was 22, I believe, and then a few years later had me, and I was just kind of born into it. So ever since I could move around and possibly throw a kick, I've been doing taekwondo. So 3-4 years old, something like that. Going through taekwondo classes every day, growing up in a martial arts household, a martial arts school. I mean, all my childhood memories are in Moon College, in the taekwondo school. They're traveling with families to tournaments, going to nationals, going to San Antonio, going to Orlando, going to Vegas. Like, my first plane trip was to a tournament to do taekwondo. Like, it was really cool. That was my entire childhood. It was just straight up martial arts. Not much. I didn't do any other sports. Sometimes I wanted to, and I had to stay on track. You know what I mean? And I wasn't super happy about that. But I'm really glad I'm glad the way that turned out. I'm glad the way in which my parents made me kind of stick with it. They did it not in a forceful way, but in a convincing way, I guess you could say. And yeah, it was just I had the best dad / coach you could possibly have in martial arts, I think, to be honest with you. And the way, if my kids choose to do martial arts, that's exactly how I want to be. He was very encouraging, very supportive, not much pressure at all. That came on its own. Obviously, you have your own pressure no matter what. If dad's the teacher and you do all these tournaments and stuff. So he knew the will to win was there. So he did a really good job as dad coach. I talk about that in a lot of my interviews. And but yeah, that was how I got into martial arts. And I did taekwondo all the way up into being an adult. And then a buddy of mine, Carlos Vera, who's I still go with, I'll see next week, actually lives in Virginia, and training with Ryan Hall and teaching striking classes up there. I'll be going to visit those guys next week. And he was with me. My family was with me, obviously. And my brother, who's my coach now, was with me as well. And me and Carlos kind of just looked at these local amateur MMA fights and was like, man, we've done a lot of taekwondo, and we're kind of in a transitional period. We weren't really competing much in taekwondo. And I'm like, do you want to try to take a fight? Like, fuck it, let's try it out. It looks really cool. It seems like the next logical step in our martial arts journey. We knew we wanted to do martial arts our entire lives, so we agreed to do it. We signed up for a fight with zero training. Like, never put on boxing gloves at that point, never wrestled, never grappled. It was the dumbest thing that I've done in a long time, and I would never let any of my fighters do that now. You know what I mean? It's absurd, but we took it back then and we thought it was cool, and we tried it out. I ended up training for a couple of months and luckily got a first round knockout. Carlos also got an amazing first round knockout. And then we were sold. We were bought in, and we trained every day like we were pros, in the morning before work. Got off of work and met up and immediately started training. And then we fell into we used to train with a buddy of ours, Hi Tran, who, shout out Tran, miss you, who introduced us to my current head coach, Sean Gayton, at Mid-City MMA. And that's it. Like, we've started training every day and living the life and trying to make something of it, and finally made it a career,
Yeah, this when you make that decision, so obviously you were predominantly in the early days, at least, like taekwondo and stuff like that. Like, was it a long decision to sort of expand into the other aspects of it, or was it pretty instant decision to sort of?
It was pretty instant.
That?
We were kind of winging it. Like, I don't know, this looks cool. It seems like something that we could possibly kind of be good at, so let's go try it out. And we're not the brightest guys, so we sometimes we do some stupid stuff, and it happened to work out this time.
I like it. I like it. What about in terms of like when you were younger, like watching MMA? Was that something you did, or was that something you only sort of started to have an interest in later on?
So, oddly enough, my dad and I had a bunch of people over to watch the first UFC. For whatever reason, the fight that stood out the most was like, I can't remember the guy's name, so shame on me, but bald-headed, light-skinned guy in I believe karate pants, and he fought this heavy-set, like maybe Samoan-looking Asian guy, and kicked him in the mouth, knocked his tooth out the cage. It was awesome. Everybody's going crazy. So that was our first like cage fighting, raw, like real fighting type of experience that I saw as a kid, and I'm like, holy shit, like this is crazy, like this is nuts. And I kind of fell off following it for a little while after that, and then got really back into it as a young adult, and then kind of paid attention to it here and there. And then when we first started taking our amateur fights, our first amateur fight, from then on we were pretty deep into it and trying to watch all the old stuff and all the current stuff and all the new stuff and trying to learn as much as possible. But yeah, it was crazy having my first experience watching the first Ultimate Fighting Championships, not knowing what to expect and seeing all these. I mean, these guys were grabbing each other's nuts, headbutting each other. It was awesome, man. It was crazy, but it was awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. When during the first lockdown, myself and Danny, because there was no fights going on, we went back and kind of reviewed some of those early shows. And like you say, those first few shows, there's literally no rules, and it's just eye gouging, headbutts.
It was awesome.
And no weight limits, so you had like massive heavyweight guys versus tiny Royce Gracie, and it was awesome. It was a spectacle, that's for sure. There is a question then off the top of my head. So if there was no rules like that, which heavyweight would you like to have a go at?
Man, I don't know.
Francis Ngannou. There you go.
Yeah, if I don't get to run around a soccer field and use what I have to my advantage, I don't know about sticking me in a cage with one of those guys. I might have to go be a banker or something, man. That's rough, getting locked into a cage with no rules. I know where I'm aiming first, but hopefully I'm successful. You know, we're going for the soft parts first.
Yeah, don't miss. Don't miss. That's all, isn't it? But
I just got a quick question I'm kind of curious about, because I've had the experience of both fighting in the ring and the cage, doing the aspects of MMA, and to me, I noticed quite a large difference in what I would say would be a strategy. Did this make a big difference for you, and what would you say would be the advantage for you to fight in the ring or the cage?
So personally, I like the cage. I prefer that. I've got most of my experience in the cage. The ring was very different. Like you're saying, it's different because I've also didn't do traditional boxing as a sport. I didn't do traditional kickboxing and Muay Thai as a sport. So getting cornered into an actual square box and getting stuck in the corner is something that would be new to me. And I fought twice in the ring, and I wasn't a big fan of it. But I have seen in previous fights where it has helped the person avoiding the takedown, kind of like flop over the edge and then get reset and things like that. So it depends on, I guess, the refs and the rules at the time. I'm not sure, like with your experience, how that was, but I've seen that, and it's something I could possibly plan for. But if I get to choose, since I happen to have the belt, I would pick a cage. I feel really good against the cage as far as like wall defense, with strikes and grappling, being able to turn my offense on when I do have the opponent on the cage. So those things I do like a lot. I don't have a ton of experience putting people in corners and beating them to death. So that's another thing, like as far as opportunity lost, you know what I mean? So yeah, if I get to pick, I'd pick the cage just because I've spent most of my time there. That's how I train. I haven't spent a ton of time boxing and kickboxing, like in the traditional sense. So being stuck in a corner or putting somebody in a corner isn't my best thing. How did you feel?
Yeah. I mean, I had the Taekwondo start out as well for my martial art careers, but I also, fought, decent level Thai boxing as well, which they're both opposites, as you know. You've got Taekwondo, which is about hitting and not being hit, and then you've got Thai boxing, which is staying as close as you can, relying on your tight defense and then counterabilities. But I would say striking wise, if you're more traditional in terms of boxing, kickboxing, K1, where you have that close quarter capabilities, I'd say the ring definitely suits. You know, you can cut people off and work the close range strikes. Now, I did say to you that I'd watched extensively your fights, particularly today, although I have seen you fight before, but because I knew you was coming on as a guest, I thought I'd make a bigger study. And you definitely have a long and medium long range capability. And when people come in, you extend back and throw your strikes. In fact, you got a great knockout in your last fight against Martin. Let me get his name sort of right. Martin Negayan, would you pronounce his name?
So he pronounces it Nguyen, I believe.
Nguyen. Okay, yeah. But that was a great fight, because some of the fights that I see you was dominating the range and the distance for your preferred striking style so well that no one was able to really put you under pressure. And as I was watching your fights, I was thinking how I'd like to see you fight someone that's got that in close capability and try and cut you off and squeeze you. Now, you know, you did use the cage and the space very, very well. And you switched your stance, which I know is something that's familiar with Taekwondo guys. You do have a preferred stance, but we're not alien to switching stances. And the way you knocked him out was very, very clever. You actually switched your stance to orthodox, because you're predominantly southpaw, and you switched briefly. And then as he come in, you threw your cross hand, switched back. You know, when I saw it very, very quickly, I was really pleased to see that they'd done the slow-mo of it. So I can absolutely see why you favour the cage element, and I'll say that definitely suits longer range strikers, but certainly the ring would suit the closer range strikers. And the other thing as well, and don't know whether you would agree, but it seems to be that the cage can suit the wrestler better, and the ring seems to suit the judo stylist, partly because they do try to sit their hips back, don't they, to try to avoid the takedown. But of course, if you sit the hips back, it allows for hip throws and hip tosses. It's all fors and against, and I was kind of curious to know your preference, because, you know, ONE Championship do hold it in both ring and cage. Interesting. And, you know, to throw you another question while I've got your attention, because otherwise Sire hog it. I've heard you numerous times say about, you know, how you're excited to show off your more complete skills. And also, you know, at the beginning, you were saying that, you know, the longer it takes for me to face someone like Gary or anyone else, you know, the worse it's going to be for them. Now, you know, this resides strongly in how I felt I was. Like, I've really felt like, hey, I'm really on the increment. No one's seen what I'm capable of and what I'm going to be capable of, because I knew I was improving quick. It does seem, although we've not seen much of your grappling skills and your defensive wrestling, but it does seem that you've become pretty confident to know that if you're forced into other arenas, you're ready to deal with it. Is this something that behind the scenes you're getting really confident with? Are you matching top grapplers now and avoiding the takedown against sort of like national level wrestlers?
Oh, you just broke up a little bit.
There we go. I can hear you now. I apologize.
Yeah.
I heard 90% of that, and at the very end, because you were talking about the grappling and you know, how I'm getting more and more comfortable with the grapplers that I'm facing, but at the very end it cut off. Yeah.
I was just saying that numerous times you've mentioned that, you know, you want to show off your true roundedness, and you're ready to do that. And also at the beginning of the interview, on numerous occasions, you mentioned how that the longer you're out from the fights due to the COVID, you're creating restrictions, that you're just going to be more ready, and it's going to be even harder to beat you. And this just really resides strong in how I was feeling during my career, when I felt like, hey, you know what, take me down, I'm ready for you there. It seems like you're feeling very, very confident that, you know, no area where that fight might go that you're going to feel like you're vulnerable there anymore. You know, so I was asking really, you know, are you getting your successes therefore, you know, in your grappling and in your anti-wrestling and your wrestling? You know, tell us, you know, what's behind all this confidence?
It's been a long road of getting better, to be honest with you. Like, my you know, my grappling wasn't up to par at the level that I'm competing in now, just even 5-6 years ago, you know. And from camp to camp, I pride myself on adding tools that fit my game, but getting better. but not just, little by little, but making big jumps in understanding, which translate to things hitting by itself, translates to things coming out organically, and you kind of teaching yourself a little more of that art because you understand certain concepts and theories, right? So that's big with me, and obviously I have an amazing friend and instructor and training partner in Ryan Hall that's helped me understand grappling on a completely different level. If you've ever heard this man teach, or if you've ever purchased any of instructionals, or if you haven't, go do it. This man, he teaches so well. The information that he sends over to your brain from his is amazing. But that's who's helped me so much, and that's where I get a lot of my confidence from, is obviously training with him, learning from him, but him putting me up against certain guys that are actual high level grapplers, and being able to train, and him coaching me through it, and us reviewing the tape and looking at what we messed up and looking at what I need to drill to get better, and just putting in the time. Like, it sounds so basic and fundamental, but it's the truth. Like, I drill my grappling twice as much as I drill my striking, and I spend a lot of time drilling my striking and then hitting mitts and sparring, and then I'm doing double that in my grappling side of things. And if I go through my entire career and you don't see any of my grappling, I'm okay with that, because I know what type of martial artist I am, and how complete of a martial artist I've become over the past few years. And that's why I do it, is for me, not for any of these guys out here watching. Although I love putting on a good show, to being a complete martial artist is for me and for my journey. And if I do get to show it, awesome. Gary's probably not the guy to show my grappling skills against on my first time out, if you guys haven't seen it first. So I'll try knocking him out and then working on it and showing you guys on the next go around. But if Gary does get me down, get me against the cage, I'm very comfortable in the situations that I've been put in, and I'm very comfortable in facing him because of the guys that I face on a daily, weekly basis, training wise. Like, I don't, it's not a situation where, like, an opponent of mine could say, yeah, I trained with a karate guy, so I definitely am ready for Tan Lee. That's a little different. I'm not a traditional Taekwondo guy. I also have certain type of, like you mentioned, long range hands, long range kicks that kind of feed into one another's as far as games go. It's designed like that. It's meant to put you in a predicament and put you in a dilemma-based type of situation. And my grappling does the same thing on the defensive side, on the offensive side. So, but I do get to face a world-class, one, in my opinion, the best grappler on the planet here at our weight. And he's got a lot of the same skills and is very good in the same areas that Gary's skilled at. You know what I mean? So he's not a copy of him. He's not a mimic of him. They do have very different games, but they have a lot of the very similar concepts that they approach with, a lot of the same paths to victory. So it makes a different type of high level matchup for me to understand in my mind and to understand physically. And I think it's as good as I could have asked for to face somebody like Gary, to be honest with you. There's not one other person on the planet I would have rather trained with. So
I find that really interesting, because my next question literally was that Gary Tunin, I think, is widely renowned by a lot of people as probably one of the best grapplers, certainly at featherweight, in the world. Like, is this going to be your toughest test? Because obviously we've seen that you've got knockout power. But as Danny mentioned, you haven't maybe been able to show your grappling skills yet, as much as your striking skills. But obviously, like you just said, maybe Gary Tunin's not the guy to sort of try and showcase that. But maybe, you never know how the fight's going to go anyway. But is Gary going to be your toughest test yet, do you think?
I think this fight in particular is going to be an extreme one way or the other. I think it's going to be a one-sided affair. If it stays on the feet and I work what I think is going to happen in the fight, obviously, that's the way we plan on it. But things don't always go as planned. But, I just don't see him getting to me. I don't see him getting to my legs, and I don't see him putting me on the wall, to be honest with you. I think this fight's going to be a smart intellectual fight in the first round or two. And I think he's going to really start needing a connection, and that's what's going to get him knocked out. So it's going to be that extreme, Or he comes out, I throw a punch, he takes me down, and now I'm on the ground for 5 minutes, and we're going to see what my grappling is made of. Either way, to be honest with you, 100%. Obviously, I'm supposed to say this because it's an interview. We're doing a podcast, and now a lot of people are going to see this, and I'm very comfortable on the ground. That's what I'm supposed to say. But I don't know how else to express it to you. I'm really excited for this matchup. I'm really excited that, I hope it doesn't go to the ground and knock him out in 5 seconds. I don't know if that's going to happen, right? So we do get put on the ground. I'm really excited for the world to see what I've been spending years and years and years on. And, we're being realistic here. I don't expect him to take me down and me to sweep him and get on his back and rear naked choke him. But I don't think he's going to be able to run his game plan. I think I'm going to get back up to the feet, and I think I'm going to knock him out.
Yeah, looking at the two different styles, if you don't mind me just mentioning this, you're absolutely right. Not only do you have a striking formatted style, but you have this medium, long range striking formatted style. So obviously the location of the positioning of the pair is going to matter. But, the tempo is always in your advantage in that it's easier to get your hands and feet touching on Gary than it is for Gary to get the kind of advantageous touch that he needs, because his touch is not a contact of strike. His touch that he needs is the clasping of his hands. So you lead that tempo. So it is that balance. Can you keep that tempo advantage and keep that range, or is he going to find cunning ways to shut into you and get a hold of you? And once he gets hold of you, that's obviously going to be a different affair. Full well that's going to be a difficult affair. It's going to be an absolute bag of tricks there. It's going to be such an interesting match. For that reason, it almost becomes an old style match, in that you got people demonstrating the extremes in two different environments, and it's one to enforce it over the other. It's going to be intriguing. There's going to be a lot of people dialing in to watch this one, and for me, out of the interest of actually being able to talk to you and talk to Gary, seeing how intelligent you both are, it's going to be fantastic.
I'm really excited, and that's one thing that really gets me excited about this fight is it's kind of got an old school feel, like you said, old traditional grappler versus striker. And obviously the general consensus of the fans is that he's really good grappler and doesn't have any striking at all. He could never knock me out. And then I have great striking and have terrible grappling, and as soon as we touch the ground, I'm going to get tapped. And obviously we know that's not the case. We've seen Gary's striking improve. I'm telling you, whether the fans believe it or not, a lot of experience in the grappling side of things, and that's getting much better daily. So it's I think it's going to be like a hybrid twist on the old school striker versus grappler.
Exactly.
And it's really interesting to me. If I was not the fighter and I was the fan, this would be definitely one that interests me as just a plain old martial arts fan.
Yeah, I gotta say, there's a lot of fights being planned at the moment. We've got some friends and people we've had on the show who are about to get quite big fights. It's all very exciting. But I think I said a couple of weeks ago, the Thornley versus Gary Toonan fight is right up there for my level of excitement for any fight in the world, just because, like you say, that old school feel, that clash of styles, and what I widely regard as two of the best fighters at that weight class in any company. So it's like, that's what you want to see in MMA. Like, Danny, we've talked with boxers, we've talked with our boxing pundit Ben Doherty about the one thing which hurts boxing is that the best don't always fight the best at their peak. And then here you've got the featherweight champion fighting the number one contender, and it's like the best v the best. That's what you want, is you want to see the best. As a fan, I want to see the best fighters fight the best fighters. Thorn, for you as a champion, as a fighter, is that what you want to do at all times, is basically test yourself against the best possible fighters that you can come up against?
100%. I think you run into some fighters that have, and not a knock on them and not a praise on me at all, one way or the other, just got into the sport understanding that it was sports entertainment. I got into the sport not understanding that. I got into the sport for martial arts and mixing the martial arts, and fighting in a cage. That's It's why I got into it, because I actually love it. I enjoy doing it every day. So I don't have camps. I just train all the time. I like it. I'm cheating. I like it. I get to do it as a hobby. It's not like I have to do it for work. So you run into situations where people pad their records and things like that so they can attain certain things in this sport. And I was just never one of those guys, for better and for worse. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get to pad my record and team up with some of these guys with the big camps and get in their Instagram pictures and this and that. And I don't know this guy and I don't know that guy. Maybe I didn't get picked up by certain promotions because of that reason. And I don't care. I'm never going to compromise who I am as a martial artist. And I'm definitely sacrificing or paying for it, I should say. I drive a 4Runner and 05 Honda. Like, I live in a small town. Like, I don't have a ton of money, but I do what I love on a daily basis. And I'm happy about it. But all that being said, I do it because I want to fight the toughest guys. That's why I did this sport. If I was going to fight the toughest guys as an amateur, and that's what we looked for, and I would have went 0-10, then maybe I wouldn't be a fighter today. And, maybe I found out it wasn't for me, but it was for me, and I did like it. And I'm trying to find the baddest challenges, because that's why I want to do this. That's what wakes me up to train every day and keeps me loving martial arts. If I was really doing it for the money, I could have either changed careers or just taken on a different character, kind of like a Colby situation, and play character and play it up and get the big fights and make some money and maybe not fight the toughest dudes all the time. You know what I mean? And that's just not the way I want to go. That's just not me as a man. That's not what I want to show my kids as a father. And I don't want to show that to my family, my little brother, my wife, things like that. You know what I mean? I guess carrying myself a certain way, because that's what I am inside. So, that's I guess a long story, a long route, but that's my explanation on why I want to fight the baddest guys and then the most dangerous guys and the scariest guys. Like, it is truly me. I'm not talking shit. That's just the way I want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that attitude. I really do. I think it's phenomenal. But just to sort of kind of finish us off before we let you go about your Sunday. I wanted to ask you about you had a fight on the Contender series, the UFC Contender series, which is obviously it picked up a lot of steam in recent months. There's been some quite big fighters come out of it. Like, how was your experience with that? How did you think it went?
I enjoyed it. At the time, it was definitely the biggest paycheck I've gotten to fight, so that was really cool. And then fighting a guy from ATT, I believe, strong coaches, strong boxer, definitely a guy built to kind of combat my style. We like longer, medium range. He likes inside boxing. Is Don's footwork going to be able to keep up and keep him in that medium to long range, or is he going to be able to have his distance closed on and start to pay, because this guy can throw heavy hands? So it was a great experience preparing for it. That's probably obviously my second favorite part. My favorite part would be fighting, but I enjoy that part of the game, understanding who he is, what he's going to try to do, try to get into his head, his camp's head, that whole thing. So that was great. The whole experience of going out and doing the media and videos is always cool. Seeing yourself sweat, flipping tires and running on a track is always cool too, like a little highlight video. And then obviously getting the knockout was great. I enjoyed that. I'm happy with the way that fight turned out as far as performance goes. That's something I focus on a lot, a little less on results, but a little more on performance, how I felt. What did I express from my art as a fighter, and all that felt really good. And then obviously at the end, getting the knockout was great. Not getting the contract was at the time devastating. I thought I had a great showing. I didn't get touched. I basically went out there, didn't get touched, and knocked this man out cold in the second round. It was about as flawless victory as you can get. But I also didn't talk shit. I didn't have the whole sugar show type of situation going on. And I didn't have a back and forth match, I didn't get to show heart and cardio and all that good stuff. And, at the time, it broke my heart, and I was in the back, after a very nice knockout in the back of my coaches, crying my eyes out because I didn't get picked for a contract. You know what I mean? But honestly, I am so happy the way things played out. Would I like to compete against UFC caliber guys for sure, and I am just that one championship with those guys and those dangerous guys. I get to face guys like Gary. I wouldn't have the opportunity to face guys like that in the UFC. You know what I mean? So very excited for where I'm at. But yeah, that experience was a very up and down situation.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be weird to win and have an almost flawless victory, but then come out with like a negative mindset. What was the feedback that you had from Dana White on your performance? Because obviously, from a performance point of view, you kind of done much more.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really talk to him much. Sean Shelby and I actually keep in like very distant, cordial touch. You know what I mean? When I see him at events, if I'm cornering somebody, I'll say hi to him and we'll have a little conversation or whatever. Or we'll text each other every now and then before the ONE Champion stuff popped up. But it's happy with the performance. You look great. We'll try to get you in when we can. And it's just wasn't something I was ready to wait on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I don't know. It could have been like an age thing. It's something that comes to mind when. And then the style of fighting, like it's definitely not so I made a joke earlier, but it's really not the most exciting style of fighting. And I understand that, but I don't really give a shit because I think that's the best way for me to fight. So that's what I'm going to do. If I don't get picked up by certain organizations, then oh well, so be it. I'm going to fight the way I think is best so I can talk to my grandkids and my great grandkids, in a bunch of years and have normal conversations and not be brain dead. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's a very real thing. I've had 2 concussions and that's too many. So I'm trying to have 0 more, You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, if that's the reason I didn't get picked up or the age thing, I'm totally cool with both of those reasons. And I can't make anybody like me. You know what I mean? So I like we talked about earlier, I kind of roll with the punches and things have worked out really, really well. I'm very happy with where I'm at. So no complaints on this side.
So what I want to do, Thorne, just before I let you go, we have something which is basically called the one-word game, where I just give you a list of names, ask you for the first thing which springs to mind when you hear that name. But just before I do that, I'm going to throw you some questions from the live chat, which people have been sending in. Craig Sullivan said, is it tough now moving the fight to just after or if it's just after the sort of festive period and Christmas and things like this, the holidays, like, does that make it more difficult to prepare for fights?
No, not at all. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I've missed a lot of Christmas and Thanksgiving meals, and it's really not that big a deal. You know what I mean? I still get to spend time with the family. That's the most important part. And discipline's always been a pretty one of my strong suits, I guess. So it's not really that big a deal. Every now and then it gets to you, but yeah, you have a big prize waiting for you early next year. You've got a big meal waiting for you, and you can have all the turkey you want after that. So it's not funny.
Yeah, exactly that. Reese said, as a fighter, when someone starts talking about you in the media, about wanting to beat you, etc., do you take notice or do you just ignore it?
So if by take notice, you mean, do I hear it, listen to who it came from, try to hear the hidden messages and how, if we ever were to match up, would he think he could beat me? Absolutely. Does it like make me mad or piss me off or like any other emotion? Like 0 emotions. To things like that, I'm like a robot. I pay no mind. Now, my wife, brother, coaches, on the other hand, they'll go and comment back on shit. Man, they get fired up and they go crazy. And it's awesome to hear them go back and forth like between each other. But and then we talk about it obviously, but I'm like a robot when it comes to that shit. I don't care at all. I get just I tell my fighters this a lot, and the guys I help with mindset and stuff, like you can't take the negative comments and let that kill you or affect you, and you can't take the positive comments and let that make your head big and make that don't get your confidence and pride and happiness from the ups of that, because there's downs of that. Don't get it from any of that. Get it from within and your family and all that. That's a big message I send to my guys.
Good stuff. And then another question was, a lot of boxing fighters and MMA fighters will travel to America for training, or in the UK they'll travel from to different gyms to get different learning experiences, different training partners, coaches. What's your thoughts on that, going to different gyms? And also, would you like to travel out to Europe and Britain to experience that as well?
100%. I would love to. I'd love to put together some kind of seminar tour and go out there and train with all the awesome guys y'all have out there. It'd be fucking phenomenal. That would be cool.
Danny's.
Oh yeah, come to our gym. we have got an international sort of like size and equipped gym in the recent years, last sort of 3 years. So if you ever was going to come over to England, go Milton Keynes, Northampton way, and you'll be made super welcome there. So what, 46,500 square feet facility, even place to stay there if you needed be. But yeah, you and buddies want to come over and train alongside with us. Oh man, what an experience that'd be. We might be able to sort something out regards seminars and stuff like that, if that's something that would ever interest you.
We're going to have to get in touch with me after this fight. We're going to have to figure something out.
Absolutely. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Okay, cool. First part of the question. Yes, traveling and training, I think it's a must. I'm just, I'm not real, I guess it's not super common for me to go to the big gyms and spend like weeks and weeks to do camp. How could I say this? I guess, like, I feel like I know my game the best. Some fighters come up in the ranks as amateurs, and their coaches almost know their games better than they do, and kind of dictate what they need to think and practice and drill. And I 100% get that, because I do that for certain guys. But I am kind of that guy for me. So I like to be the primary skill builder as far as like gaps in the game, what we need to, but I love to outsource opinions and information, because it's not all going to come from me. I am nowhere near this guy in MMA. So I go to like camps like Jackson Wink and talk to Greg Jackson and those awesome coaches and fighters over there. I go to TriStar and pick Faraz's brain, awesome MMA mind, and great team over there. I'm constantly at 50-50 with Ryan Hall, like we mentioned earlier. He's always here. We're training together on a weekly basis almost, you know what I mean? We're spending so much time together. So, and we've also gotten information from Resistance in Cali with Darren Yamanura. I know I'm killing your last name. I'm sorry. It's just a ton of minds that we're getting together and trying to pick and get as much information from, bring it back home, and just let me drill it and learn it my way. Let me drill it slow, drill it fast, drill it with Resistance, drill it with this guy, drill it with this wrestler, drill it with this jiu-jitsu guy. Like, being able to take the info from all these great minds, help where I can, and then bring it back home to my area, and then let myself kind of skill build on those items,
Awesome stuff. Gaz says, get Carlos Vera on the show. Guy is an absolute killer. There you go. He's yes, indeed. He's a very, very good fighter. I like that one. That's a good comment, Gaz. I like that. Donna says, what is your biggest achievement in your martial arts and fighting journey so far?
That's a good one, and that's a very hard question. I'm gonna say getting to the point where I am now, to be able to make the money I'm about to make on this next fight. Part of why I was disappointed that it was pushed back, because I needed a good Christmas. But because what that money is going to do is be able to let me do what I want with my team. I'm going to be able to take care of my family. I'm going to be able to, in the grand scheme of things, my wife can quit her job if she wants to. My dad can stop working these crazy hours outdoors at these refineries and doing construction, and he can teach martial arts like he wants to every day at my gym. I can take my friends, my brothers, and they can quit their crazy labor jobs and come teach at my gym martial arts, because we spent so much time getting good at martial arts. Like, I don't want the money to drive a Ferrari, which that would be cool, but that's not why I want that. The reason I want that is to be able to put my entire little circle in a self-sustaining ball of martial arts and family and friends, and then it's kind of like its own little ecosystem of money going in and out and bringing in students and teaching martial arts and coaching guys, and my family doesn't have to do all this hard work that they've been doing for years and years and years.
Wow, it really says something about you to talk in this way. It was never really anything that you mentioned about your personal self, other than the ones that you care most around you, being able to make choices through the comfort of what you could offer them financially. It's incredible that you talk like that.
Like,
and
literally,
it's not gone unnoticed.
Yeah. It's literally the only reason that it was heartbreaking that I wasn't getting big contracts. Like, I have a little old, 1,800 square foot house, and I told you I got an 05 Honda Accord and a 4Runner I bought after my last fight, and I don't need much else. I want to take care of my kids, obviously, but I don't need anything else. I want to take care of my family. I want them not to go through things that they've earned and learned from. But guess what? You don't have to do this anymore. Let's just go and chill at the gym for 16 hours if you want, or go chill at the gym for 8 hours and teach a couple classes. Like, let's. Somebody did well enough to take care of the rest of the group. Now it's time to chill.
That's quite something.
I love that. I love that. Okay, Thon, before we let you go, let's play the one-word game. I'm going to give you a list of 8 names. You just say the first thing which comes to mind when you hear that name. The first name on that list is Conor McGregor.
Trailblazer.
Next is Paddy the Baddie.
Entertaining.
I like that. Dana White. Awkward.
Hater.
Hater. There we go. There we go. Gary Toonan.
Exciting.
Jake Paul.
Smart.
Colby Covington.
Act.
Canelo Alvarez.
Goat.
Yeah.
Kamara Usman.
I can't make it one word. Hang on.
No, you're right.
It's going to be a phrase.
Use more than one.
The more I hear about you, the more I like you.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Who? Just very quickly, who do you think should be next for Kamara Usman?
Man, I don't know. I mean, he took out Masvidal, obviously. He took out Colby. We've got Leon waiting, right? And then Leon was supposed to be matched up with who else? Who's the one-off?
So he was going to fight. Leon Edwards was due to fight Masvidal, wasn't he? And that was called off.
It's pulled out.
Right. Damn, there was another name in there that I was thinking they were going to match.
Shemaev, I think.
Okay, that was the hype boost, like the one that's going to skip some spots that I thought they could possibly put him up against it. But Leon, I think, even though he waited a little bit, I think he's the next one, man.
Should be due.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, we've been saying Leon for a while.
You have to. Yeah. Okay. All right. Making sure.
There's not much he can do. There's not much more that Leon Edwards can do for me.
Yeah. It's not a case of being biased because he's UK. It's not even a case of being biased. I mean, this guy keeps getting the wins at the highest order, and why he hasn't been given a title shot.
Exactly. You're not biased because I'm on this side of the pond, and I think the same damn thing.
There we go. Listen, Thorn, Lee, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. It's been great to have a bit more time with you this time and really delve into you a little bit, get to know you even more. I really appreciate your time, my friend. And obviously, we look forward to your next fight. Hopefully, not too far away. But keep in touch, and obviously, have a great Christmas and all that good stuff. But stay safe, and we'll see you soon, my friend.
Same to you guys. Thank you all so much.
Let's get connected, Dawn, and try to arrange something. If we can ever get you over this way and make it worth your while, it'd be a fantastic experience all round.
Listen, I'm serious. Let's do it after this fight. Let's get in touch. We'll figure it out.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Good luck, buddy.
I'll pass on your contact details to Danny Thorne, and then he can sort it out with you then after your fight. But
all right.
Good man.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Cheers. Thorne Lee.
What a man. What a man.
Yes, mate. Really enjoyed that. It was a really fascinating, interesting chat. But no time to waste, my friend, because waiting patiently in the wings is our resident boxing pundit, Mr. Ben Doherty. Welcome back, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, great to have you back. An unplanned visit from you this evening, because initially I hadn't planned to have you on. We sort of wasn't a really big fights on last night, but there was something which really caught my eye, because I had half an eye on the boxing last night, and then I saw social media and Facebook. I saw your Facebook was full of comments. There was a bit of a shock last night.
Yeah, that certainly was. I mean, Kiko Martinez, it was an incredible situation to see him turn the tide against Kid Galahad like that, and score that stunning knockout. I think I was so convinced. I nearly posted, you just know this is going to be the most one-sided, pointless affair at this stage, because Kiko Martinez has been a great, he's been not a great with a capital G, but he's been a really solid world-class fighter for aeons. I think he's probably older than he's listed age of 35, to be honest with you. But but I figured he was so shot-born at this point, and he looked shot-born in the early rounds, because he looked like he'd lost that ability to ride a shot, was getting hit to. I mean, he's always been aggressive, and he's never been Nicolino Loche or Willie Pep defensively, but he looked like he was shipping just too much punishment. And I thought, is this the night that the wear and tear is going to show, and he's going to get broken down? Because to be honest, somebody messaged me just before the fight and said, Galahad on points at 3-1's got to be worth a go, isn't it? And I thought, yeah, because the guy's tough as old boots, So I stuck a tenner on Galahad on points, meaning that I wanted Kiko Martinez to go the distance. And to be honest with you, in the first 4 rounds, I thought he was probably going to get broken down, because he looked like he was taking too many shots early doors. You know the rest. I mean, he lands that big right hand at the end of the 5th round, and Galahad is saved by the bell. Obviously hasn't recovered, and is sparked by the very first punch of the 6th round. Which, I think it's life affirming, to be honest with you guys, because I was so tempted to say this is a pointless. This is a very uninspiring first defense, and it's just going to be what it is. And it wasn't, was it? Which reminds us that anything literally can happen. Not just when 2 heavyweights are in there, when 2 featherweights or anything else are in there, when 2 fighters are in there. One punch can change everything, and you've got to be happy for Martinez, because he seems like such a dedicated athlete. He said today, or yesterday, he said, might be a surprise for everyone else, but it's not to me. He said, I've been living like a monk for 3 years, sacrificing, and I believe he's now regarded as the greatest Spanish fighter in history. Which, all right, so they're not massively talent deep in all-time greats, but fair play to him. What can you say?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think. There's a lot of different aspects to it. It was a home bout for Kid Galahad. I saw Eddie Hearn's kind of reaction afterwards. He seemed genuinely quite shocked and a little bit upset. Obviously talking about the rematch afterwards. I saw a few people, on not too many, I guess, but a couple of comments on social media saying that the coach shouldn't have sent him back out after he got knocked down, and he should have stopped. At the end of that, I think it was the 5th round one. At the end of that 5th round, they should have stopped it then. He shouldn't have come back out to get knocked down again. But, it's a title fight. It's his first title defense. It's in front of his home crowd. I can understand why, you give him that extra bit of leniency, if you like. Do you think that's a fair shout, or do you think it should have been stopped?
No, absolutely. I think I would have sent him out, to be honest with you. I think it's a very tough call to pull the plug at that moment, isn't it? When your man has been, without putting too far, and I heard the other American guy cursing, so I will do. When your man is bashing fuck out of the guy in the way that he was for 4 rounds, and as you say, he's only been hit once. He's made one mistake essentially, and his mistake, by the way, was admiring his work a little too long and backing up in a straight line with his chin in the air. So he made that mistake, but. When you've got a chance to talk to him and whirl the towels around to give him a bit of air and throw water on him and put the ice pack on his neck and say, now come on, get behind your jab, make yourself scarce for a round or 2, I think I would have absolutely sent him out. And no way did I expect him to get nailed with the very first shot of the next round. So it's easy to criticise Dominic Ingle, but I wouldn't.
No, I thought it was pretty much as it should be. You got to give these guys a chance, particularly. It's his first title defense, and he dominated. Let's not forget, before the knockdown, he dominated that fight. So, it was only going one way. And of course, as you mentioned just now, Ben, it reminds us that in boxing, in MMA, it can change on the touch of a button, as it were. But it did get me thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put this question to Danny in a minute from an MMA point of view as well. So I'll let you've got a couple of minutes to think, Dan. But for you, Ben, talk to me about some of the biggest boxing upsets in history, because I know you are bang on with the facts and everything. You'll be able to rattle off a few.
Well, okay. Well, I think the biggest one, bar none, it is Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas in February 11th, 1990 in the Tokyo Dome. Because, I mean, it just was shocking at the time. I don't know. I know both of you gentlemen would have been old enough to have seen it at the time, probably. And I think you must have been living in a cave if you missed it. So, I mean, I just thought it was surreal. It was and also it was surreal in the library-esque kind of atmosphere of that Japanese, the politeness and the quietness of the Japanese crowd, which is very not like a Western crowd.
Different, isn't it?
It was utterly spellbinding, surreal, and shocking. To see Douglas do that. Some people said you could get him at 42-1. That's always the price you're given in it, that he was a 42-1 underdog. There are people who say it was only one Las Vegas casino was offering that price at the last minute. And people say there are people in England who claim to have got it, it goes. Whereas other people say, no, you never got that price in England, no way. You got about 25-1 or 37-1 maximum. But in any case, that I think that one still stands out as the biggest. I think Cassius Clay versus Sonny Liston was pretty huge at the time. I mean, he was about a 7-1 underdog, but there was only 3 of 46 experts polled before the fight picked young Clay to win. That was a pretty massive seismic upset. Jack Dempsey, Gene Tunney, certainly the first time in 1926. The first fight was at the Centennial Stadium in Philadelphia. That was a huge upset at the time. One that a lot of people don't realise these days is Jimmy Braddock, the Cinderella Man, when he beat Max Baer in 1930. It would have to be 1935, I believe. When he was a massive underdog. I think you look back and you wonder why, because you can see it as Baer was a heavyweight of a certain level, charismatic guy, lethal puncher, but never took training too seriously, liked the ladies too much and the kind of playboy life. And you see Braddock was a dogged, dedicated guy, a little bit small, coming up from light heavy. But I've always struggled to see why it was such a big upset as it was. But it's gone down in history as one of the biggest upsets. If you want to go really far back, John L. Sullivan, when he lost to James J. Corbett in September 1892, in I believe that was St. Louis, but don't quote me. But that was a huge upset at the time because John L. Sullivan was undefeated. He was that kind of invincible giant figure in American life, and back then. Donald Curry versus Lloyd Honeyghan, that was massive at the time. He was thought to have. If Brian London had beat Muhammad Ali, it would have been that same level of upset. What Honeyghan did that day, and also more recently, Ruiz versus Joshua was huge, wasn't it? I mean, I think that really was.
Yeah, that was massive. I think that's when I think back to fights that have shocked, like me personally. That one springs to mind straight away as maybe it's recent memory kind of bias, but it was genuinely so
massive.
Shocking. Gaz in the comments says he remembers when Nazim Hamed lost his first fight and he was shocked. But I think with that one, I think he lost. Didn't he lose to Barrera, wasn't it? I think and that might have been a bit of ignorance from. There was not internet wasn't as prevalent back then. Barrera was a pretty good fighter.
He was a great fighter,
He wasn't a bum, was he? And Nazim Hamed, I think we were so used to seeing him showboat and win that when he did finally lose, it was shocking. But I think people didn't realize quite how good Marco Antonio Barrera was.
I think they did. Yeah. I think they did realize it. I think his body of work was already out there, but I think he was thought to be over the hump. He was thought to be over the hill, and Hamed had never lost, like as the gentleman suggests. He had that aura of invincibility also. But I think people knew that Marco Antonio Barrera was like a kind of borderline all-time great even then, and he certainly cemented that position, by beating Hamed and going on a kind of second wind of his career. But so that was an upset. It was an upset, and it was an eyebrow raiser, but it wasn't on the grand scale. Leon Spinks Muhammad Ali in February 1978 was the other one when he was a 7-fight novice who beat the heavyweight champion of the world. That's another huge one that really stands out. Just want to correct myself, by the way. Sullivan Corbett in 1892. That was in San Francisco, not St. Louis. Not that anybody really cares.
Just disgraceful, Ben. How could you not remember that? Yeah. Reese says a shock for another reason for him was Ortiz versus Mayweather. He says, I remember Ortiz got hit hard on the chin and just gave up. I think everyone's got like these personal ones which stick out in memory, don't they? And but I think there was another question.
Holyfield Tyson is another one, by the way, Simon. Holyfield Tyson, the first one. That was huge. These are the kind of top 10 candidates for me. The ones I mentioned so far, the ones that really kind of shook the world. If you want to talk about things that didn't shake the world, but there was some massive upsets. There was when Kirtland Lang went out and beat Roberto Duran. That was pretty huge. Randolph Turpin, Sugar Ray Robinson, July 1951 at Earl's Court. Massive, possibly the biggest British boxing upset. Honeygun and Curry, Robinson and Turpin could be weighed up. They're right up there. Those are the real seismic upsets over the boxing history.
Good stuff, Ben. Reese has asked a question. I got to say, I'm not familiar with the situation, but he says, Ben, can you talk to us about the Frampton-McGuigan situation? Frampton won a big payout, it seems, and Barry seems to have been selling tickets for big events to celebs. I know nothing about that, so I can't comment. But
we'll see. They had a court battle, Barry and Carl, after being obviously as close as they would have been before that. I don't know too much about the ins and outs. I've known Barry McGuigan to say hello to, for a few years. It's certainly dating back to about 2011. I think I've been quite friendly with Barry. Interestingly enough, I'm pretty transparent when I come on here or talk to anybody else. Really, Barry blocked me on Twitter a while back, and I don't know why. And there's only two things I can think of. One is that I'm friendly with Billy Joe Saunders, who obviously took the MTK kind of partisan position when Barry spoke out against the promotional outfit on Panorama, and he might have lumped me in with Billy Joe, who was being quite abusive to Barry.
Yeah.
Or it might be because I spoke to Juan Laporte, who Barry beat in 10 rounds in one of his most less significant fights before he beat Eusebio Pedrosa to win the WA featherweight title. And I'd heard rumours for ages that Juan Laporte had not quite given his best, and someone had a word with him and told him not to go to unload his right hand in Belfast that night. And we spoke about it, and Barry might have got the hump because of that. In which case, I apologise for that, because I can see how if I'd have had a sensational victory, and somebody was trying to call it into question in that way, then maybe I would have got the hump as well.
Of course.
But Barry with Frampton, I don't know. What I do know is Frampton appears to have got the result that he wanted. He seems to be very happy with the way that was resolved. I know it went back and forth. He was basically talking about monies that should have gone to him, right? That monies that were directed away from him. I can't remember the precise details of it, but he was talking in seven figures of money that should have gone towards him that was somehow diverted. And I don't know the ins and outs of it, and I wouldn't want to comment on the integrity of either party, but I do know Frampton appeared to get a good result in court. That I do know. Every indication afterwards, I think they settled out of court in the end. I'm not sure.
I just did have a quick Google, and that seems to be the case. But
they may have settled out of court, Simon. I think the whole kind of social media body language from Frampton was that, right, good, great, I can move on with my life now. I think what is a shame is that he says he hates the McGuigans with a passion now, that's always a shame.
They were quite close, weren't they? They were
they would have been incredibly close. I'm sure, like McGuigan and Circle of Life, McGuigan and Barney Eastwood, they were so close in that heyday, and it was that kind of quite that cute story. Thank you very much, Mr. Eastwood, and all that. And then they fell out big time, and it ended in the High Court. I think they won one case each against each other. I'm not sure who came up on top financially, but there was no love lost. But I do know that when Barney Eastwood died, I think last year, Barry did publish a tribute. Classy guy that he's always been, saying, we had our differences, but what an amazing man he was for me. But I think Frampton has said that the McGuigans are dead to him now. That's what I believe his position is. What can you say?
Yeah, it's sad when things go that way. Unfortunately, you mentioned the Panorama episode with MTK. I haven't watched that. It's on my list. I got a very long list of things that I need to catch up. But could you give us like a quick overview of what was the gist of it?
Yeah, essentially, Daniel Kinahan, who used to be the head of MTK, has a reputation in Ireland in particular, Dublin, where he's from. And for many, I know particularly the Irish government weren't happy about the idea that, as far as they were concerned, he'd reinvented himself in boxing. All I ever hear from fighters is that I have a friend who's very close Daniel as well, who's a close friend of mine, who says he's absolutely fantastic. I'm aware Daniel Kinahan doesn't have a criminal record, and all fighters, including Billy Joe Saunders, have said, he's a fantastic negotiator, and he's always paid them fantastically well, and promptly and everything, and all he's ever done is good things for boxers. I know people who promote with it under that banner now. A friend of mine who used to be an unlicensed promoter, and then he got his legitimate promoter's license. He promotes MTK shows now, and it's been life-changing for him. So I've never heard a bad word about Daniel Kinahan in boxing circles, but other people say that he and his father before him were part of some kind of cartel that was doing X, Y, and Z. Okay.
Okay.
Quite a global, quite an influential scale. That's what people say. I wouldn't know, would I? But the thing is, there was a program that they've been dogging him for a while, and there was an expose going to come out, and BBC did it, and they called it Boxing and the Mob, and they were trying to say that there was skullduggery afoot and things were not right. That's what the BBC were trying to say. That was their whole case, and the only person in the boxing industry who was willing to talk to them and to be critical of that particular outfit was Barry McGuigan, which some people thought was interesting, but because of some of the mystique surrounding that whole kind of name and the brand, some people wondered why he would do that. But Barry said, "I'm not worried about anybody, and I've been in terrifying situations all my life." And that was, it's worth watching, though. I would say, Simon, from a point of interest, but they did. You know what? They didn't really prove anything. A lot of people in boxing said, "Oh, well, what was the big shock and what was the big expose?" At the end of the day, the response from MTK in particular was, as well as the fact Daniel Kinahan is no longer associated with that company in any official sense whatsoever. Tyson Fury brought it on top in a bit, didn't he? Because he said, "Well done, Daniel Kinahan, for negotiating the biggest fight in boxing history, me and Anthony Joshua," which didn't end up going off, as you know. But that's what seemed to draw the heat. The Irish government have got some kind of problem with Daniel Kinahan, and what they said was, what they seem to be saying was, he can't just reinvent himself as a boxing promoter. We have an issue with this. And then that's all this publicity had been generated. I believe that there's an awful lot of talk about him in Ireland. Obviously, there isn't so much over here. But I think in Ireland, there's a constant thing going on in the newspapers over there, from what I understand. And they seem to be unhappy with his eminence in boxing as much as anything else. But at the end of the day, the man doesn't have a criminal record. Everybody in boxing who's ever dealt with him has spoke highly of him. And that's as much as I know, boys.
Guys, first and foremost, Ben, I really appreciate, because I just put you on the spot there, and I just sort of chucked that to you because it came up, and there were some people in the chat saying about it. But Gaz makes the point. He said the BBC, lots of implications, absolutely zero evidence of anything. Yeah. Unfortunately, that seems to be the way of the BBC a lot of the time these days, which is a shame.
Yeah, it was a bit of something and nothing, to be honest with you. The BBC show, it didn't prove anything. And, Barry stuck his neck out and said what he said. And he's had personal dealings because some fighters who used to be with him ended up leaving and going to MTK. And the other side of the coin is, some people say, well, it's because those fighters weren't treated properly, and they have been treated properly since they've moved. All I know, like I say, is I know people who deal with him in boxing. Because Billy Joe, even whether he's with MTK or not, Billy Joe said a while ago, if Daniel Kinahan is not around to negotiate my contract when he moved to DAZN, when he signed a deal with DAZN, so fucking hello, he said, then I may not be interested in carrying on. He said, I would consider retiring if Daniel isn't there to have my back. So all I know, friends of mine say he's a friend of theirs, and he's a fantastic guy to have, as an ally. The other side of it, it's not something I really consider a great deal of my business. If something really was a point of principle that I ever feel like I've got to stand on that, then I'll make the decision. But all I know is that lots of noise about X, Y, and Z. The BBC, anyone who is interested in that bit, go and watch the BBC documentary. But the word from boxing is all positive.
Great stuff. As always, Ben, an absolute pleasure to have you join us and give us a little bit of an update on the boxing. Appreciate your time, my friend, and I'm sure we'll see you very, very soon. Absolutely. See you later.
Cheers,
Ben. Thank you, mate. Love it, mate. I just really enjoy having Ben on talking boxing, and I always say to him, like, 15 minutes, half hour, whatever it may be. And I said to him today, it'd just be 10 minutes because I've got to be done by 12:30, and because I got to pick my son up. It's Sunday, and I can't help myself. Cannot help myself, my friend. It just keeps going. But we'll just kind of talk about the results and stuff over the weekend. And and whatnot in just a sec. But before we do that, I have to say, and I'm delighted to say, that support for the Danny Batten Fight Show is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's and women's below the waist grooming, champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer. It is the Lawnmower 4.0, as seen here. All across Europe, it's been launched. You heard that right. It's the 4th version. You can join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping. All you have to do is use the code FIGHTSHOW, and that's 20% off free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com. It's time to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, 1 trimmer, should I say, and get yourself and your lady a gift. I am talking about the Manscaped Performance Package. And with this package, you get the Lawnmower 4.0. You also get the ball toner, the ball deodorant, and the with the there you go, as modelled by Mr. Daniel Batten there. It's like me and Rodri talked on Friday. The ball toner, if you just need to give yourself a bit of a refresh and a spray, it is mind blowing. It is life changing. It can freshen you up. But also the ball deodorant is anti-chafing. It's particularly good if you do a lot of sport, if you do a lot of running, things like that, where you're sweating a lot. I think it's genuinely can help you. I was surprised by the effect, and I was open about that. I'm not going to just say something's good for the sake of it. I'm very honest with you guys with anything I talk about, and like I was so shocked by the toner and the deodorant. It was just unbelievable. And like obviously, with my physical issues, I don't do a lot of running and stuff like that. But I'd imagine, Danny, like you do a lot of jiu-jitsu, you do a lot of grappling, you do a lot of exercise and physical strenuous stuff with sparring, things like that. I'd imagine like anti-chafing stuff's going to be good.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things, no one's going to believe me unless they try it themselves. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu, do a lot of kicking on the bag, which is almost like a running motion. You really accelerate into the bag time and time again when you're doing conditioning and fitness on the bag. This stuff works wonders. It really, really does. And you just got to get it to try it. And I guarantee you, anyone that gets onto it will be hooked, and it'll be something that'll be in your cupboard at all times, being used on a regular basis. Great stuff.
And the thing is, like in terms of the shaver, like it's waterproof, and that helps because you can do it in the shower. But I used it to trim my beard. You can use it to shave your legs if you're a female, or if you just want to shave your legs. Obviously, you can shave your different parts of your body. And I was just so pleased with the quality of it. I'd gone through so many different beard trimmers. They just haven't quite been right. They're either too wide or too heavy. It's the weight of it. It's got this little torch on it just under the blade. And it's just because it's small as well, you can kind of get in and out. And also, like I said, you can keep everything in that thing. And look, without being too graphic, there's nothing worse than if you're having a little bit of a tidy up downstairs. If you just get like a little nick and you just nick yourself, it's not nice. Not nice at all. It stings. Snag the bag, as it were. This avoids that. And it's top quality shaver. And I have to say, I am thrilled by the quality of it and just what it's done. Manscaped is going beyond the groin with their new refined cologne. You've got which offers a light yet masculine fragrance that will leave your lady on the naughty list this Christmas. It's got hypoallergenic ingredients that are vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, and paraben-free, which, in my opinion, just makes something which is a quality product even more appealing. And the other thing I want to talk about very quickly is, and I talked about this, I think, the other day, is they also sent us a pair of their anti-chafing boxer shorts. So they remind me of the Calvin Kleins in the material, but just the quality of them. I was shocked. Yeah. I was pleased the boxer shorts, I'm gonna definitely be getting myself a few pairs of them because I'm really particular about my boxer shorts. Like I tend to have certain brands and certain styles. I'm definitely going to add Manscaped to my cycle of boxer shorts. So I was surprised by that. You can get nose hair trimmers, which are also, they're waterproof. They've got a 360-degree rotary blade system. Probably get that as I'm getting a bit older now, the old ear hairs and nose hairs. It's unavoidable, mate. It's unavoidable. And I think in 2021, there's nothing to be ashamed about, a bit of male grooming. Manscaped.com. Use the code FIGHTSHOW, 20% off, free shipping worldwide. You can get anything you want. So treat yourself this Christmas. Treat your family, your friends. Get them to treat you, whatever it may be. It's definitely worth it. You will definitely find something for you. Help us by helping support our brand partners. And of course, we thank them for sponsoring the show, no less, my friend. And I, again, will say it very clear. I won't just promote any product just because it's beneficial to us. Like, I only want to promote products which I believe in, which I use in, which are quality. And I cannot speak highly enough of Manscaped from their service in terms of delivery to the quality of their products. So,
yeah, and to add in, Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming, mate. Christmas is coming. Use the code FIGHTSHOW. So what I would like to say, mate, is we're gonna just have a quick chat about the weekend's fights, because we've been treated. It's episode 100. We've been treated to two guests, including a world champion. But we did have some incredible fights over the weekend. From a Bellator point of view, for me, the only fight I was really had my eyes on was the Cyborg versus Sinead Kavanagh fight. I was really rooting for Sinead Kavanagh, really, really was. And she fought. Cyborg just did too much, and she finished her quickly. I'm almost like, I would never criticize a fighter for going where they can go and get paid and all that. I want fighters to get paid as much as possible, but I'm very gutted that Cyborg's gone to Bellator, because I feel like the only fighter on the planet at the moment who can give her a go is Amanda Nunes.
You're exactly right.
Different companies.
Yeah, they're both absolute standouts, aren't they? In their different promotions. Of course, we have witnessed them together, but I don't know. Something tells me that the only way really we're going to be satisfied with these two people is to see a trilogy of some sorts. Get them to do the triple whammy. You kind of like to really vamp it up. You would hope Cyborg would perhaps win their next face off if it ever were to happen, so you could have a final one. But you're right. She's just looking unstoppable, isn't she? In that promotion, she's just looking unstoppable. Yeah, and she's not really young. She's not a spring chicken anymore, but she looks every bit as good as the day she stepped in the ring and cage.
Yeah, she looks so sharp, mate. Really, really impressive performance. Moving on to the UFC, mate. There was a few standout performances, but let's start with the main event, mate, and kind of just work backwards very quickly.
Absolutely, yeah, sure, no problem.
Max Holloway, ranked 1 versus Yair Rodriguez. Holloway picked up the unanimous decision victory. This was a fantastic fight. Yair Rodriguez, mate, look, I know, Max Holloway is an all-time great. He's just unbelievable. But Yair Rodriguez deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the way he fights, and after having so much time out. And I really look forward to him pushing on now. Hopefully he can stay injury free, because he's such an exciting fighter to watch. Max Holloway is an animal. Max Holloway had some issues to figure out with this one. After that first round, I was kind of gobsmacked at Rodriguez's performance. So explosive and diverse in his thinking and approach to his striking that even Max Holloway couldn't stop it all coming at him. He was getting connected with. He got connected with punches, with kicks, and those body kicks. Oh, not only do they sound horrible, do you see his rib? It looked like a rib had been put out. It just looked horrific. But Holloway, although he got shin kicked
his legs really got worked over by Rodriguez, and not in a subtle way. I mean, he was hacking him in, but never once did he show really a limp or an impediment on his stance. I mean, it's a pain threshold to behold. He ended up getting nicely cut as well, didn't he, Holloway? But was not shy to mix it up into the pocket. Holloway has just got so much talent. Not only has he got heart, not only has he got incredible cardio, but he's able to adapt and change on the job at a pace that can't be matched. Rodriguez is a complete athlete in every retrospect. He can be explosive. He's got cardio about him, creative, but he eventually got ground down, partly due to the fact that I think he's had 2 years out. I think, having your first step in after 2 years out and having a 5-round war against someone of Holloway's caliber, probably was a step too far for him. But boy, he put on an awesome performance. He only gained respect for that performance that he put on against Holloway. But we can't take away from the fact that Holloway, wow, what a fighter he's becoming. We already knew he was great, but he's going beyond that now. This guy literally is a living legend in the works. He really, really is. He's a special talent. It really is. Amazing.
Yes, indeed, mate. And then we had Marcus Rogero de Lima defeated Ben Rothwell via a TKO. Dan Hardy and Dana White agreed for a change, first and foremost. They were not happy with the referee in this one.
Yeah. Maybe they thought it stopped a little earlier. He looked like he was going to stop it and then not.
Yeah, and I think that physical contact, I think, is the thing. Because once the fighter feels the referee touch him.
Yeah. It's again, the referees are really in a difficult situation with it all. And that they're going to make almost not half judgments, but flinches like, oh, shall I step in? But then it quickly about turns and the person defending suddenly has some fight in them, or it looks like they can find a way out. So to me, I'm not going to be overcritical about what I saw regards to refereeing. I think it was a good stoppage overall. And just not deter from the two fighters and what they did here. Look, Lima come out and did the right type of thing against Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell, once he gets going and he gets momentum forward, he's a big dude. He cuts weight to make this weight division. He cuts weight. You have to be a seriously sizable dude to be doing that. And he comes with bags of cardio. It's not like he cuts weight and it's detrimental to his cardio. He's a grinder. But what he ain't is necessarily a fast starter per se, although he does chuck out lots of hands and kicks and he gets really tucked in. But Lima come out explosively and caught Rothwell off step, and he just never got a chance to really get going. He just couldn't get ignited. I think if Rothwell, instead of trying to be the warrior that we know he is and fight back and just throw with abandonment, I think if he just let Lima bust his nut, so to speak, and just play it cool, I think Rothwell would have ground out on Lima. But Ben, he chose to throw down and it went against him.
Yes, indeed it did. Unfortunately. Then we had Felicia Spencer defeated Leah Letson via TKO.
Yeah. Spence did not hang about, knew what she wanted. She wanted to get tucked in with a clinch. Didn't look hell-bent on a takedown at all. We seemed to just be totally happy to press Lee Letson up against the fence and grind on her with punches, knees, foot stomps, the odd little feel for a takedown if it felt that it was just to do so. But literally just beat her up against the fence. Letson was kind of disappointing here because she allowed it to happen, not for 1 round, but 2 rounds. And it wasn't until round 3 that she actually come out with something assertive of her own. And that was come in the form of a takedown, funny enough. She shot in and took Spencer down. But it was quite short-lived there. She couldn't get a great deal of work. But, it seemed that she was willing to come with something different to try and change the trajectory that Spencer was having on Letson. But, it was an interesting strategy. But, boy, did it work. Fair play to Spencer. She's a feisty little animal, isn't she? She definitely likes to get mucked in there and tucked in there. She very much reminded me of what Randy Couture used to do. He used to use his newly acquired boxing skills to get that wrestling clinch. And because he was becoming an aging adversary, he's well into his 40s, wasn't he? While he's still quite at the top of his game, he would use his wrestling control and knowledge just to beat them up against the fence. I remember him fighting Tito Ortiz doing a fantastic display of someone older, more mature in the wrestling, literally just beating him up so much so that, you know, he got punched to the floor from up against the fence. So yeah, that's what we saw from Spencer. Really, really good. Yeah, onwards and upwards for her. Letson, she's got to learn to diverse her changes in rounds. When one thing ain't going well, you've got to switch it up. She took 2 rounds to decide to switch it up. Yeah, not the way to go winning a bout.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Chaos Williams defeated Miguel Bereza via TKO. Chaos Williams, I think, was coming off the back of a loss, so he needed.
Yeah, he had a good win. Yeah, he had a good win. Then he had a loss, and now he's back on winning ways again. When he got his win, I was really impressed with Chaos Williams. This fight, I felt like he's just chasing for the knockout, and yes, he got it, but it was an ugly affair and come with its risks. That Beza, I think I pronounced his name right. Look, he's a pretty decent striker himself. You know, he doesn't necessarily sit down on his shots as much as Chaos was choosing to, but he has a pretty handy leg kick on him, and he's kind of lengthy and rangy and sharp. It very nearly went against Chaos, and Chaos wasn't having it his own way whatsoever. In fact, I think out of the pair, if it had gone the distance, my money would have gone on Beza to win it. I felt like he just had the better form. But Chaos is such a powerful dude, and he was putting it all out there to try to get the knockout. And it come about in a very, very strange situation that Chaos got kind of kicked off balance, and he sort of just swung a combination, not really setting it up. He just threw it out there. But look, anything that connects with the jaw just right is going to knock you out. It doesn't have to be the most powerful of strikes. He certainly didn't have the power behind it because his footing was all over the place. But it clipped Beza, and Beza went down, and it was it was the end of the night for him. But I do worry for Chaos Williams fighting in this way. He's not going to move up the ranks and stay with that increment of improvement if he's going to carry on doing it. It's just not strategic. It's not tactical. It's just not the way to go for him. And so I hope his camp give him a good old talking to, and he comes out a little bit more tactful minded next time.
Yes, indeed, mate. Yes, mate. But he's got a lot of potential. He's a good fighter.
Potential for sure, but
knockout power. But he's got to work on.
He's got to have game plan. He's got to have game plan, and he's got to have setups. You can't expect to get wins like this just by throwing it all out there in any which way that comes. He's got to prep it up and play the game, be more sporty with his approach to the fight game in the MMA if he wants to break through and make real noises in that division.
Yes, indeed. And then lastly, we had Song Yadong defeated Julio Arce via the TKO. I'm a big fan of Song.
Song Yadong, absolutely bags of potential. I don't think we've seen really what he's capable of just yet. I think there's more to come from him. They stylistically was frustrating me in the first round. They both clearly had respect of their potential explosive power in the striking range. There was opposite stances, which I think made it difficult for them to find each other and feel confident. But in the corner, it was actually quite interesting. You know, they told A.C.E, you know, you've got to step it up. You've got to get in. He may well have lost that round. And he did go chasing down Soda Yodong. He did start trying to chase him down. But along with doing that, you know, you do open yourself up. And Song Yadong just makes good decisions and really assertive decisions. And he landed the strikes and got the win. Looking really, really good. I'd like to see him, you know, move up those ranks and get a little bit more tested. But I think this guy's got some positive trajectory going in his favour. I think he's going to start making some noises. I think some of the higher ranked people have been watching him and going to be watching him even more closely after that performance. Although I'm being critical of them both in that first round, I think it was the opposite stance, the similar style, similar range, and both having that knockout potential that created that snooze fest of a first round. I found it really frustrating. I think we've just been spoiled with such amazing performances, haven't we? That when you see people being a little shy to tuck in, we kind of like can lose interest in the fight. I did pay attention all the way through, and I like what Asa was doing in terms of pushing forward. He absolutely needed to do that. But Song Yadong, maybe when he went back to his corner, they said, look, he's going to come chasing. Bed down on your shots and catch him on the counter as he comes in, and he did, and it worked.
Yes, indeed, mate. So that wraps us up for Episode 100 of the Danny Batten Fight Show, and what an episode it was. Please do download the audio version at the Sports Social Podcast Network. Links to everything on that is underneath this video, and of course on our social media and stuff like that. Subscribe to YouTube channel, follow on social media. Most of all, spread the word, help us grow. We really enjoy what we do. We really enjoy how much it's growing and stuff like that, but we want to grow more. We need
and
your help to help us
can I
grow.
Let me just do a quick shout out. Weekend I was at a fight show. I had 2 amateurs and 1 pro fighter fighting, and we picked up a British title. So well done to Denzel for doing that, and Hassan, great, fantastic win as well. Unfortunately, we didn't get the win on that pro fight, but he fought a wrestling coach of a well-renowned gym. So, amazing. And did very well, very close fight. So a big shout out for those guys. You really did us proud.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. We'll be back next week for another episode of the Danny Batten Fight Show. Join me Monday night for the live, me, myself, and I might even have a guest. See ya.